Welcome everyone. We are going to jump into our next tutorial here. In this one, I am going to cover building out hotspots using OxyExtras hotspot component. And specifically in this tutorial, I'm going to go over using them with a repeater. So you can see in my example here, I just have two built in here. If I go ahead and click on the hotspot, it pulls up an image. And this one I have some text along with it, and then this one I just have an image. So the very first thing I did is I'm going to jump over to my build now, and I just have a pre-built site from the Oxygen try link. Other than that, I haven't done anything to it yet. In my media library, I did go in and add in my 3 images here. And the very first thing I'm going to do is we're going to use a really handy plugin along with this. So I'm going to go into add new plugins, and I'm going to search for a plugin called Advanced Custom Fields Image Hotspot Field. And it might take a moment here. Take a look and see if we can find it here. All right, let me just paste this back in and we'll look again. I think it's going to be towards the bottom here. All right, this is the one we want right here by Andrew Rockwell. So I'm just going to go ahead and click install now. And then we're going to go ahead and activate it right away. All right, and I'm going to assume that you already have Advanced Custom Fields and Advanced Custom Fields Pro and OxyExtras already installed, which I do here. So next, let's jump over to our custom fields, and we're going to go ahead and build that out. So I'm going to add a new field group here, and we're just going to call this hotspots. And we want to set this equal to page, just for my example. Certainly you can change that to where you need it to be. I'm going to change my position to high after title, just so it's above most of the other stuff. And then from there, we're going to just go ahead and jump in and add our groups here. So the very first thing I'm going to enter here is actually going to be a repeater. So I'm going to hit my drop down here, come all the way down to repeater. And for this one, I'm going to just name this hotspots. If I tab through, it's automatically going to make my slug for me. And then we can scroll down a little bit and start adding each item in here. So my first one that I'm going to go ahead and add is going to be my hotspot image. Again, if I tab, it's going to automatically make my slug there. In my field type dropdown, I'm going to choose image. So let's take a look here under content image. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. It is important to make sure that you set it as image URL. Otherwise, you're probably going to have some issues. So make sure you do choose that because it's not the default. I'm going to leave my preview size the same. And I believe that's going to be everything we need to do on that one. So next, what I'm going to add is going to be my hotspot location. And this one is where we're going to be using that plugin that I had you install. So if we go in here, we're going to look for image mapping is what it's going to be called in our list here. So if we go ahead and choose that, it's going to add some options down here. And what we need to do is we're going to have to enter in the image field name, which I don't have yet, so we're going to come back to that. I do want to go ahead and check this checkbox here, which allows us to use percentages. And next, we're going to add our next field here, which is going to be hotspot title. And this one I'm just going to leave as text. And then lastly, we're going to do hotspot text. Again, I'm going to leave it as a text field here. Actually, I'm going to change this one to a text area just so we have a little bit bigger of an area to use. And we are good with that grouping. And then now I'm just going to add my next field, which is not inside the repeater with everything else. And this is going to be our main image that we're using. So for this, I'm going to name this our hotspot main image. And this is where I'm going to copy our slug here. And again, I'm just going to choose image in our drop down here. And again, I want to set my image URL under return format. And again, I'll leave my size medium. And we should be good on that. So now I'm going to scroll back up, having copied this, and I'll just copy it one more time because we need our field name. I'm going to scroll back up to our image mapping option. And you can see that I need to paste that in right here. So I go ahead and do that. And now I can go ahead and hit save on everything or publish. And we should be good to go. So now if I jump over to pages, and in my case, I'm just going to do this under the features page. I'm just going to open it in a new tab here. And I jumped the gun on that one. I need to actually go into the page first, not just load it in Oxygen. So I'm just going to X out of that. And now you can see that I have my options here. So the very first thing I want to do is click Add Image to my hotspot main image. So I do this, and I'm going to choose this one here, and I'm going to hit Select, and then I'm going to add a row here. And now you'll see that I have the option to add in 4 different areas here. So I'm first going to select my image, which will go with the steering wheel for this one. And I didn't worry about any alt text or anything in this case, just because I'm giving you an example. Certainly if you were doing this for real, you want to make sure you do have all that info in there. And in our case, we did have a title and some text on this one, so I'll just copy and paste that in here. All right, so I have those in there. And then what it's going to do is in this image, you see I have this little plus arrow now. This is going to allow me to choose where I want this hotspot to show. So this is the really nice part, is once we do this, we're not even going to have to go into the builder to set where our hotspot location is. So in this case, we're on the steering wheel. So I'm just going to go ahead and just put my point right there. So now you can see I have this red dot, and it automatically generates these percentages, which gets pulled in within the builder. So I'm going to go ahead and add one more row here and do the same thing. This time we're going to use the navigation image, and I'm not going to use a title or text in this case. In this one, I'm just going to set my location to be right here in the middle here, just like we saw on this one. So now I can go ahead and hit update, and we have all that info in there. So now I can come down and click edit with Oxygen. And again, I'm going to just do this in a new tab. All right, so we're in our builder. I'm going to go ahead and open my structure panel here. And what I'm going to do is insert a section right below our hero here. So I'm going to click add in the top left and section. And from here, I am now going to insert a heading. And I'll just double click this, and we're going to call that hotspot images. And next I am going to add in a div. So again, I click add in the top and then select div. And I'm going to expand that now here so we can see this. And in my section, I'm going to go ahead and just set it to vertical and center. And I'm going to come over to my sizing and spacing. It's already set to 100%, so I'm happy there. And I'm not going to mess with the padding at all right now. So now you can see we have that centered here. And I don't want that to actually be an H1 in my case, so we're just going to set that as H2 because our H1 is typically going to be up here. So now let's go back down to our div here. So we're going to click on that. And from here, we're going to add our hotspot. So click add and come all the way down to extras. And once you click here, we're going to want to just choose hotspots. So again, I'm going to expand this. And now here, we're going to choose to add our image. And in my image here is where I'm going to now browse. Actually, I lied to you. We did not want browse. I'm sorry. I want data. So if I go ahead and click data, it's going to bring this up, and I'm going to choose advanced custom fields and hotspot main image, which is going to be my only option. And I'm not going to set any sizes at all right now because it should just pull the default. So I'm going to click insert, and you can see it sets it up there. The main thing I do want to do is we are going to set the size of this. So if I go back to my media library, I'm just going to have this open in another page so I have that ready in case we need to go back. From my media library, I'm going to look at my image and see what size we have. So it's 900 width. So I'm going to come over here to Oxygen Builder, and we are just going to go ahead and set that to 900 right away. And I'll set my height to auto. Let's see how that looks. I'm going to have to play around with this here shortly. So you can see it looks a little bit blurred right now, but we're going to fix that as we go through all this. I just want to get all the different things added in here first, and then we'll come back through and stylize them. All right, so we got our main image in there. Now I'm going to come back up to my hotspot and click on this, and we're going to now add our repeater. So here it still has my OxyExtras open, so I'm just going to start typing repeater and click that. Otherwise, you can search for it in there as well. And in here, what we want our query to be is we're going to use ACF repeater. So I'm just going to click that checkbox, and it's going to give me my option here, and I'm just going to choose hotspots and apply query parameters at the bottom here. I'm going to go ahead and click my back arrow here. And now what I'm going to do is expand that out again, click inside my div, and in here we are going to now add in our popover. So I'm going to go ahead up to the top left corner, click add, and now choose popover. And again, I'm not going to start stylizing all this yet, but we will get to that. Additionally, inside my div here, I'm going to also add text in 2 spots. And I'm just going to duplicate that right away, so I have that open. And now my first set of text, I'm just going to double click in here and come up to my insert data. And here we want to go to our advanced custom fields, and you'll see here we have the option of the advanced custom fields or repeater field. We want to go ahead and choose the repeater field. And in our drop down here, we want to choose our title for the top one. We're going to click insert. And then in our next one, we're going to also double click here again, click insert, and do the same thing, except we are now going to choose our text and insert. And lastly, inside our div here, we are going to add in our image. So again, I'm going to click add. You can just start typing image and get that added in. And here we're going to choose data again, our repeater field. And this time we're going to choose our hotspot image and go ahead and insert. So now we want to go through and actually make sure everything is in the right orders here. So what I want to do is set my image between my two text fields here and make sure that all of these are actually under my popover. So you're going to have to drag those over, and it might be a little tricky, but we should be able to get it here. All right, so we got all three of those in there now. And the last thing I want to do is I'm actually gonna close these up a little bit just so I can move this easily. I want to make sure that my repeater is above my main hotspot image. And we need to do that to make sure that everything shows up properly. So now I'm going to go ahead and expand that back out just so we can get into everything here. I'm going to come down to my image and we can start sizing everything. So you can see I have it at 900 here. I'm going to go back up to my hotspot. And from here, I'm going to click on Advanced, Size and Spacing. And I'm going to set that to 900 again. All right, so we've got that in there. All right, so you can still see that the image is blurry even after we set our width. So I'm gonna actually jump back down to our image and I'm gonna click on Data, Advanced Custom Field again, choose my hotspot main image, and this time I'm gonna choose my size and just set it to original. Let's see if this fixes it for us. All right, it did. You can see it cleared that up for us. So we are good there. I'm gonna jump all the way up to my div up here, and we're gonna set up our layout here a little bit. So I'm gonna set vertical, center, and middle. I'm gonna set my width to 100%. All right. Now jumping back to our hotspot again, we should be good here. I'm just gonna double check my settings. Got our size and spacing set. All right. So let's go ahead and jump down to our popover now. So from here, what we're gonna wanna do is set our marker position to dynamic. And now you can see that it gives us this new field here with 2%. And this is where that custom field that we added, which with the image mapping, comes into play. So if I go ahead and click Data and click on my repeater field again, and we're going to choose our hotspot location and click Insert. And that's going to preset where our locations are showing up. So from here, we want to now go and add in our popover width. So in my case, I'm just going to set it to 625. You'll have to play around with it a little bit to see what is going to be best for you. And then we can go through and play with our marker a little bit to get it to look how we want. In my case, I am going to style it a little bit. I'm going to leave it as the same icon. I'm going to increase the size a little bit. We're going to go to 25. I'm going to set my color for it. And in my case, I'm just going to do a red, just like I have in my example, which is FF0000. And you can see it's red now. And next I'm going to click on borders, and I'm going to set my border radius to 50%. Might work with pixels as well, but I'm going to actually set it to percent, and you can see it showing up just like we had in our example, just like we do here. All right, so let's go ahead and jump back into our Oxygen builder. I'm just going to hit apply parameters here, and you can see once I did that, it jumped my hotspot into the correct position. So it is important to make sure you do click that. All right, I'm going to jump back a little bit here. And let's see if there's anything else we want to do. Certainly you can play with some of these other settings if you want to. I'm not going to at the very second. I am going to double check quick to see if there's anything that I'm forgetting in there. All right, I think we are good there. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. And we're just going to jump to our front end and see what we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and click refresh. And you can see we have it here. If I click here, you can see that it opens up and I have both my text and my image here. And if I click on my other one, the same thing. So you can choose to style this how you want, changing the background of this, making your corners more rounded. In my case, I do want to center this a little bit, so we're going to jump back here. And inside here, where we have our text and everything, I'm going to click on Advanced, Layout, we're going to do Flex, Column, Center, and Center. Let's see if that does it for us. It might actually be inside the popover settings that I have to do that, but we're going to just check it out quick. And yeah, it is. All right, so I'm going to undo what I did there. And you can do that just by clicking on each of those options again, and it'll unselect each of them. So I'm going to click back on our primary, and we want to, let's go in here and see which one it's going to be. I think it's going to be our inner layout. We're going to want to do vertical, center, and middle. And again, I'm going to hit apply and save. Let's go ahead and take a look here and see if that was the trick. Yep, so you can see they're center now. So now we can go in and stylize our text as we need to. You can see everything is crammed. So what we're going to do is on our text, we're just going to add some spacing in there. So I'm going to click sizing and spacing, and we're going to add some margin to the bottom. Now, depending on what you do for your different styling, you can use pixels, or I typically use rem, but in this case, for my example, I'm just going to be quick and add pixels here. So I think we'll just start with 20 pixels there, and we'll do the same thing on our text here. And this one, I'm just going to add it to the top instead of the bottom this time. I'm going to go ahead and click save, and we can take a look and see how that turned out for us. So now you can see we have a little more spacing there. And you can see in this case, we do have space being taken up where the text would be here. So what we can do is now click on our text again, and we're going to add in some conditions. So in the very top here, you'll see our condition settings. If we go ahead and click that, we can set conditions, and we're going to add our first one. In our drop down, we want to choose our dynamic data, and then we're going to come over to our repeater field, and you can see we're on our second text here, which is kind of grayed out, which happens to be our hotspot text. And I'm going to click insert. and we are going to set this to is not blank. So basically what this is saying is if this field is not blank, we're going to show it. So you can go ahead and now just click the X and that's all set up. And we're going to do the same thing on this one. So click on this text. Again, we're going to come up to the condition settings, set conditions, add your first condition. Again, we're going to click our drop down here. I apologize, there's a little bit of lag going on here. And I'm going to click dynamic data in our drop down, then repeater field, and then we're going to choose our title. In this case, click insert, and we want to again set it to is not blank. And you don't have to put anything in the custom field here, just is not blank is going to be good. So now if I click the X on that and save, we can come up here and hit refresh. And now you can see that there's no extra spacing around this image. And if I click this one, you can see that it's still there. And certainly if we go back now and on our page add some text here, and I click update. Apologize, I have to hit refresh here first for it to let me do that. And now I can click update. Sometimes I notice if I come to a page and haven't done anything in a while, my update button is grayed out, so I can't actually click it. A refresh usually solves that for me. So I have navigation in there, I clicked update, and now if I come back to the front end here, hit refresh, you can see that is showing in there. And in the bottom, it's still not adding any extra space because we still had this blank. So let's jump back into the builder here, and we're going to tidy up a few things. So you'll notice right now that only one shows in the back end, and if you hover over it, it kind of disappears on you. It's nothing to worry about. If we come up to hotspots, you do have the ability to navigate between hotspots. I usually just leave that disabled. I'll go ahead and enable that here, and just so you can kind of see how that works, I'll click apply and save. And if we hit refresh here, and if I click on one of these, it's going to bring it up. And I think I would actually have to add these classes in order to be able to do that. And that's something I have not played with, so I'm not going to jump into that. But I think based on what it's showing here, if we use those classes, that's how we're going to be able to navigate. So I'm just going to set that back to disabled. You can choose whether you want your hotspots open on page load. I'm going to leave that at none. I'm going to click save again. And lastly, we're going to come through here and make this mobile friendly. So where I'm going to start here is, I think I'm with my image. So I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom here, and we're going to slowly work our way down here. You can still see at the 1120, in my case, it still fits okay. If we go to 992, now you can see I get my scroll bar here, so we're going to have to make that a little bit smaller. So in this case, let's jump down to 750 and see what that looks like. Still have a scroll bar, so let's try a little bit more here. We'll go to 650, and that looks pretty good here. And in order for our hotspot to be in the right spot here, because you can see that right now it's showing not in the right spot, I do have to also go up to my hotspot section, and here we're going to also set our size to 650. And once I do that, you can see it pushes it back into the right spot. So it is very important that you have your hotspot and your image with the same widths and you do actually have to set a width. You can't just set it at 100%. Otherwise, you're going to run into issues where it's not going to be exactly where you want it, especially as it scales. So I found that it's very important to make sure you do actually set your width for both the hotspot and the image. So next, we're going to drop down to the next one down. Let's go to 768 here. Again, you can see it's too big, and we have our scroll bar here. And we were at 650 before, so let's try 500 now, and that's a little bit better. I'm going to come down to my image too and set that here and see how that looks. We might have to go a little bit more. Yeah, let's try 400, and I think that's going to be good. And we'll make this match just to make sure everything lines up properly. And let's jump down to the next one. And here we'll go ahead and set it at 300. And set my image also at 300. And we are good to go there. So now I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And refresh. You can see everything showing up here fine, and I'm going to use my handy dandy Hoverify to click responsive, and you're going to notice we're going to still have a little bit of an issue here once this loads. So let's go ahead and find our hotspots. You can see those are roughly in the right spot, and when I click it, you can see that these are showing up a little too big. It's okay on an iPad, but once we get to our mobile devices, you can see they're too big. And that's because we have them set to 625 pixels. So I'm going to jump back over to my builder here. And we're going to start at the top again and work our way down. So I'm going to choose my popover. And here's where we have our popover width set. And again, I do want to have actual pixel value set here to make sure that it's showing up big enough, because if we do leave it blank, I will show you. We'll go ahead and hit refresh here. It's going to shrink my image way down, and that's not what we want. So jumping back in here, we do have the ability to change our units here as well, but I'm just going to leave it for pixels in my case. I'm going to set that back to 625 for our all devices and slowly work my way down here. I think once we get to our 992 or less than 992, instead of 625, I'm going to drop down to 525. And then less than 768, I think I'm going to drop down to 425, and less than 480, we're just going to drop to 300. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save, come over to my Hoverify tab here again, and I'm going to click Refresh. And once that loads up here again, we're going to scroll. And now if I go ahead and click in here, you can see that it's fitting in on the screen. And on the bigger size, it's showing here as well. All right, so you can see that we've made that a lot more responsive now so that it's fitting on all of our screens by sizing it out. And it is going to be something you have to play with and go through and size it out. Certainly if you're changing your breakpoints within Oxygen, this might change a little bit, and or depending on the size of your hotspot images that you're putting in there, you may have to start at a completely different number. But I'm just giving you a starting point, letting you know that it is important that you do have to actually set your value here. So now that we have that all done, I think we are going to be good to go. I shared all the main tricks behind this, things that I stumbled and had some issues with initially. The main ones that I had the hardest time with was not having the hotspot and image be the same size, and therefore my actual hotspot location would be slightly off depending on the size of the image as I scaled. So making sure that they're the same is going to ensure that every time your hotspot is right where you want it to be. And again, the nice point is this allows you to only have to come in and add or subtract hotspots right from the back end. You don't have to jump into Oxygen Builder anymore. We're completely done with that, and we're just gonna stay focused on here. So it makes it really easy if you're building a client site and you don't want them to have to go into Oxygen Builder. You can make this very easy for them by setting this up like this, giving them the ability to add an image and choose right in the back end where they want that image located and add the text. And all they have to do is click update and it'll automatically show everything that we want. So that's the power of using OxyExtras Advanced Custom Fields Pro within a repeater. This is something that I found really useful and is pretty powerful once you decide to use it. And certainly in this case, I'm just adding it into a blank image on a page here. You can use it in all sorts of different types of way. In my use case, I'm using it inside tabs, and I find it very useful to be able to add different tabs with different images inside it and have different hotspots on each of those images. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Certainly if you have questions, drop them down below, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.